Hello friends, my name is Bree and welcome to that Iowa homestead. Today I'm going to talk all about my irrigation system. So I'm out here in my garden where my irrigation system is, and I thought I would talk to you guys about why I decided I needed an irrigation system, where I got my inspiration from, and just show you an overall of what my system actually looks like and how it works. So as I've mentioned before, I've only been gardening for about 3 years, and it wasn't long after I started gardening that I realized that I needed to have some kind of irrigation system. And the first thing that I came up with was what a lot of people come up with, and that is just an overhead sprinkler system. And I thought that that was absolutely magnificent. It saved me so much time, but after doing a little bit of research, I discovered that overhead watering systems are not the best for your plants, particularly tomato plants, which I grow a lot of. Overhead watering can actually damage your plants in more ways than one, particularly if you water during the day. Overhead watering, you can actually leave droplets on your leaves, which in the sun can actually end up burning your plants because the little water droplets that sit there magnify the sun. And particularly with plants like tomato plants, overhead watering can actually make them sick. Tomato plants need a lot of airflow and not a lot of moisture. If they get too much moisture on their leaves and in all the plants, it can actually make them pretty sick with something called like blight. Their leaves will turn yellow and they'll just overall look sickly and not healthy, and you can just tell that they're just overall not happy. Which of course means that they're not going to produce as well for you. And that's the goal of having tomato plants, is having a good yield from them. So it is very important to make sure that the moisture level there is good. And so after doing a bunch of research, I actually discovered that the best way to water your garden is to bottom water. A couple places that I took inspiration from when coming up with my irrigation system is Roots and Refuge Farm and Living Traditions Homestead. I'll put a link to both of their channels down in the description box below. But they both use ground watering systems. The one that I leaned more towards was Living Traditions Homestead. They use drip tape irrigation, and they actually bought like a whole set. They have a couple of really great videos on that. Check out their channel if you want to learn more about their system. But I tried to do things a little bit more affordably. I didn't want to buy a whole big set and drop tons of money all at once. So a lot of the stuff that I got, I bought piece by piece and put it together as I was going to try to save myself some money there. But I'm pretty happy with my system. I think it works very well. I have, and I will show you guys all that stuff in a little bit, but I have a 1/2 inch line that runs to a 1/4 inch line, and the 1/4 inch line is what waters my garden. The first year that I did this was last year. I put all this together last year, and I reused all the same equipment this year. The only thing I did was I rearranged how my garden was set up this year a little bit, so I had to redo one of my 1/2 inch lines, but that was no big deal. It took me about half an hour to get it all done. It was ready to go. And that's taking the old one apart and then putting the new one back together. So no big deal at all. It was really important for me to have an irrigation system in my garden because I'm not just a stay-at-home person. I have another job outside of my garden, outside of my home, that requires a pretty big time commitment for me. So hand watering everything is just not an option for me. I just don't have enough time in the day for that. So this is really like a set it and forget it kind of method for me, and I love it. It's super convenient. I have a timer system that I have set up on my phone. I can change the settings pretty easily, and it waters every other day at 6 a.m. till 8 a.m. On particularly hot days, I can go in and manually water the garden by just pushing a button on my phone and turning the system on. Very convenient. All right, I thought I would go ahead and give you a tour of the Beehive app. The Beehive is the timer that waters my garden. If you look in the upper left corner, it can show you the battery life right there. The upper right corner, it shows you the day's high and low temperatures. Main garden area is my garden that gets watered every other morning. Below that is the rain delay button. I can push that if I know it's going to rain outside. That way my garden doesn't get overwatered. And on the right side is water manually. And I can water it if I feel like it needs an extra water. Right now, I think we're going to go ahead and go down here and push that zones button. This is where if I had more than one gardening zone that needed watering, I could add another zone here and it would split off and water that other zone. But I only have the one, so we're good there. If I push that water manually button, I can go ahead and come in here and set how long I want that manual watering to go. Each loop around is 1 hour, but I typically only water for a max of 2. If I go over here and I click the little zone button, again, I only have the one zone, but it gives me all kinds of little data about what's going on in that zone. My last watering, my next watering, all that good stuff is in there. Heading back to the main screen, we're going to go ahead and go over to calendar. If you look, all those little green dots that were there are all previous waterings. So you can see my main garden gets watered every other morning at 6 a.m. This gives me all kinds of data about the high temperature, the low temperature, the humidity outside, the wind on that specific day that I click on. I really love this app. It's really good for tracking all that data. And I like being able to look back at all that data. This is just, all your little settings, and then I can go in here and look at the water history and see on June 29th, my garden got 261 gallons of water in the 120 minutes that I watered it. Again, like I said, this app is great for collecting all that data. I absolutely love it. Now, the initial setup of my irrigation system did take me quite a while because, like I said, I bought all the pieces individually. I didn't have a giant kit that I worked from. I bought everything individually, and I measured everything out by myself, and I put it all together with a little help from my husband and some input from him as well. He had great input on that. It helped me out a ton. But basically, I had the layout for my garden all planned out. And once I had everything in my garden, I went through and I took my 1/4-inch line and I measured out wherever there was a plant in the ground. And I cut that line. So like my peppers are all 1 foot apart. I cut my 1/4-inch line into 1 foot segments for my peppers. And I put the emitters in each of those 1 foot sections. So every foot for my peppers, I have an emitter that waters one specific pepper plant. None of my container garden areas have an irrigation system, so I do still hand water all of those plants. But that is not nearly as daunting of a task as watering my entire garden, because I have a lot out here. I have a lot of plants that need watering every day or every other day. But eventually I would like to have a system in place for both my 5-gallon bucket area and my big container garden on the other side of the garage over there. That is a main goal of mine because honestly, the simpler I can make this, the better. Because like I said, I do have other obligations outside of this house. There are days where I am gone from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. And that little window of time before the sun sets over the summertime is just not enough to get everything done that I need to get done. So anything that I can do to save time, I'm going to do it. And this irrigation system is just one of those ways. So I thought I would take you through my irrigation system and show you each piece and how each piece fits into my irrigation system. Starting with my irrigation system timer. From the timer, it goes to my garden hose. And from my garden hose, it connects to a little piece like this. This is a pressure regulator. It also has a little filter here. But this little piece right here is very important because it keeps the pressure from getting over 25 psi. And the reason that is so important is because if the pressure in my irrigation system was to get over 25 psi, it would essentially have too much pressure and it would blow off all the little pieces, rendering my system basically useless. And then from that, it connects to this 1/2-inch line. And from there, I have it split in 2 different ways. It goes to my main garden bed, and then it also goes to my raised beds. In the raised bed area, I have little elbows like this because I have to have my 1/2-inch line go up, over, down, over, up, over, and down again. So I have these little elbows so that I don't have to try to rig up the system and bend the line and potentially lose water pressure in there. And how I did that was I just cut the 1/2-inch line and put it on this end, and then these tighten down on there. And then I cut another piece and did the same thing, just tightened it down on there, just like that. And then from there, I used this little hole punch right here to punch holes in my 1/2-inch line. All you do is you just take it, push down till it goes through just like that, and you have a nice little hole right there. And then this is a little connector. Put this little connector right in here, just like that. And then from there, I connect my 1/4-inch line. This is the line that actually waters my plants. Normally I use a little heat to get this a little more pliant for me so that it goes on a little easier. And then like depending on where it's at, like my tomatoes, I think it's every 2 foot. I cut a little 2-foot section of this, and then I connect one of these little T-fittings on there, and another little section that tees out right here. And then I have one of these little emitters. This is what the water actually comes out of and waters my plants. And then once I get to the end of the line, you don't want the water just spilling out the end of this line right here, so I have these little end caps right here. Just put that right on here, and it prevents the water from spilling out the end, and it allows it to build pressure so that the water comes out of the emitters. Now also, you're going to have an end cap on the 1/2-inch line, because again, you don't want the water just spilling out the end. That will prevent any water from coming out of these little emitters. So same as the little elbow, see, little end cap, just put it on there and then twist it down, tighten it on there, and you should be good to go. And again, when adding these little pieces onto my hoses, I tend to give them a little bit of heat so that they're a little more pliant, and then as they cool, it kind of like suctions them down onto the little pieces. So it just adds a little extra security after you tighten these pieces on there, especially for these ones, pieces like these, because these do not have anything that I can tighten down. They're just, you just shove them in and you're good to go. But yeah, that's all the pieces of my irrigation system. Thought I'd give you a quick rundown of that, and now I'll go ahead and give you a tour of the real deal. So the first place we need to stop on this little tour of my irrigation system is right over at my hose spigot. This is my little setup I got going on here. I have this little Y here, and I can turn each individual hose on and off with that right there. This is just my extra hose that I use for other stuff, whether that be filling up my waterer or watering my container plants. And then this right here is my timer for my garden. That, again, like I said, connects to my phone via Wi-Fi. I'll show you the other bit of it inside in just a little bit. And then my timer connects directly to a garden hose. Here is the other half of my hose timer that connects to the Wi-Fi. And that garden hose leads directly out to my garden. You can see I have it running along the side of my house over here. And this right here is where it connects directly to my pressure regulator. And then you can see from right there, my pressure regulator connects to my 1/2 inch line. I have a T in right here. So this line leads to my main garden, and this line leads to my raised beds. So we'll follow that line. You can see right here I have my little elbows, my little length, another little elbow. I'll show you how it connects to the 1/4 inch line over here because it's a little easier to see rather than trying to dig through all those onions. So 1/2 inch line, and then I have a little connector right here, and then I have it connected to my 1/4 inch line. And that leads way over there. This one is every 3 feet, and it connects to where my cucumbers are. You can see right here, I have another little T right there, another short little length of hose, and then an emitter. And this is what waters my cucumber plants. You can see I have a little landscape staple here just to make sure the head stays, or the emitter stays exactly where I need it to be, because those are pretty easy to move around. And if we just continue following the little hose down the line, this is my little end piece. And again, I just have a little landscape staple here just holding it in place because I do not want these to move around. And if we follow the little 1/4 inch line all the way down through all of my cucumber plants, you can see right here another little end cap. Yep. That's all I have for you today. If you have any more questions about my irrigation system, please leave them in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to answer all your questions. If you liked this video, please don't forget to subscribe so you can see all my weekly videos that are coming up. I got a lot planned for you. Thank you for coming with me today. I'll see you soon.